Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I will call this Bloomington City Council meeting to order. Tonight is Monday, September 16th, 2024. So glad to see everyone here in the council chambers, and welcome to everyone joining us online. We will start our meeting as we always do. If you are able, please stand, remove any coverings you might have, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome and thank you for being here this evening. We've got a full and interesting agenda tonight, Council, and looking forward to getting to it. Our first order of business here is to approve tonight's agenda, and I will go through it quickly. Under our introductory items, we have 5 different items under the introductory items. We have first the introduction of new employees. Item 2.2, we've got an acknowledgement of our Hatch Bloomington Award winner. We've got then 3 proclamations. 2.3 is a proclamation for Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month. Proclamation on 2.4 is for the International Day of Peace. And then item 2.5 is a Constitution Week proclamation. Now, as soon as we're done with those, Council, we're going to move up 5.1, which is a timed item. This is the Community Health and Wellness Center Feasibility Study and Business Plan. That's a timed item, and just for everyone's information here, generally a timed item we will move up to get it done quickly, especially if we have a lot of consultants involved, because we want to make sure that we get to the items where we're paying a consultant to be with us, and we're trying to get to that as quickly as possible. So we'll be moving item 5.1 up to follow item 2.6 in the agenda. Item 3 on the agenda is our consent business. Councilmember D'Alessandro has the consent agenda tonight, and it looks like we've got 11 different items on the consent agenda. Under our item 4, our hearings, resolutions, and ordinances, we have 1 public hearing tonight. This is regarding our 2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluations Report, our CAPER. We'll move on to item 5, which is our organizational business on the agenda. You'll see item 5.1 there. We've already moved that. Item 5.2 is the City Council Policy and Issue Update. And item 5.3 will be a closed session of the City Council. This is a discussion on real estate acquisitions related to the Community Health and Wellness Center site. And then, hopefully sometime today yet, we will adjourn the meeting. So, Council, any additions or corrections or anything else to add to tonight's agenda as stated? Hearing none, I would move approval of tonight's agenda as stated.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Lohman to accept tonight's agenda. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and we have an agenda. And we will move right into it. And we will go on to item 2.1, the introduction of new employees. We've got a number of them in our Community Development Department, and I'm going to call up Kim Bergeron, our Community Development Director, to do the introductions this evening. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll start by introducing Maricruz Hernandez. It's fun to come on up here. Maricruz started with us in July in the HRA division as the program specialist working on home improvement loans. Maricruz comes to us from Community Action Partnership, where she worked as a housing coordinator with CDBG and Minnesota Housing Grant Funds. And she's also served in the past as a civil court clerk for Dakota County. Maricruz enjoys the outdoors and hiking. So welcome, Maricruz. Do you have a...
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. Nice to meet you, and you will see my face quite often here on council meetings every Tuesday.
Good.
And I'm here to make the city, but help City of Bloomington HRA keep growing.
We're very glad to have you on board this evening, and thanks for being here with us tonight. And introduce yourself. We'll see you again soon, I'm very sure.
Thank you.
Next, I'll introduce Mark Fritz. Mark started with the city at the end of July as a commercial property appraiser. He's joining the city, prior to joining the city, he was a senior residential appraiser for Scott County. And before that, he has also done residential fee appraising for over 20 years. Here in Bloomington, Mark will be primarily focused on multifamily properties as well as expanding into the office properties. Mike and his wife Christy and son Tanner live in Jordan, and in his free time he enjoys watching his son Tanner play soccer, weightlift, and fish.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Been here about 2 months now, and I we'll have to say it's been a very welcoming environment so far. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, great. We're very glad to have you, and you're filling an important role, so we're glad to have you on board and getting busy and getting to work here in Bloomington. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, I'll introduce Kevin Knays. He is the new Assistant Port Authority Administrator. Kevin began working at the end of August here in that role, and he'll be focused on real estate development for the port. He has a bachelor's degree in urban planning from the University of Minnesota, as well as a master's of business administration from Augsburg. Kevin's most recent job was with the city of Minneapolis, where he supervised the residential real estate development team. And then prior to Minneapolis, he worked for Minnesota Housing, Dakota County, and also the city of Golden Valley, so a lot of government experience he's bringing to the table. Kevin grew up here in Bloomington and is excited to be back working in support of the community.
Good evening, Kevin. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Excuse me. As Kim said, I've been here for about 3 weeks now, and staff have been just really collaborative and welcoming, and it's been really great to be back working in the community that raised me. So thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself.
We're glad to have you and welcome you back to Bloomington. And
Thank you.
thanks. Welcome to all of our new employees. Thanks for being here tonight, and thanks for saying hello to the council and actually just being on our cable cast also, so folks in the community can see your faces as well. A lot of times you're the faces of the community for us, and we appreciate the work that you do and the fact that you're here and willing to step up and be the representatives of Bloomington to the residents of Bloomington. So thank you so very much and welcome. We're going to move on to item 2.2 on our agenda, and this is an acknowledgement of our Hatch Bloomington Award winner. Oh, my mistake. My mistake. I'm sorry.
No worries. Mayor, members of the council, Laura and I are here to introduce Zhao Den. For the past 10 years, ICMA has hosted YSLE Fellowship Program, which is for youth Southeast Asian Leadership Institute. Did I get that right? Perfect. Young professionals in part there. And so we're really excited that we have the opportunity this year to host in Bloomington. And then, Laura, do you want to share more about what we have in store?
Sure. So we're happy to have Zhao with us. Zhao is a fellow in the environmental project through ICMA. So there's 4 different areas. There's 25 fellows in the U.S. right now, and Zhao will be working with us on our waste reduction and recycling efforts. So she'll shadow our recycling sorts that are happening this week and attend some community engagement events with us. And she also will help us prepare for our citywide recycling drop-off, which is coming up on September 28th. And Zhao has a background in working in environmental issues in Vietnam, social enterprise organization that's focusing on plastic, single plastic use reduction and informal waste workers. So we hope she can learn some stuff about what we do, and we can learn more about what she is doing in Vietnam.
Good evening, everyone, and I really appreciate that let me have opportunity to working with City of Bloomington here for the next 4 weeks, and I hope that I can support public works in sustainability projects during my stay here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I don't know if it was clear. I mean, this is part of an ICMA, an International City Managers Association Fellowship Program, and you are originally from Vietnam. You were in Washington, D.C., spending 4 weeks here. You'll be heading back to D.C. for a while. So this program gives you an opportunity to see other cities and other cultures, but also the opportunity to teach us a little something as well. So excited to have you here. So thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks. And I do want to point out, Council, it was only right here in bold, so I only made it to item 2.1 before I made a mistake tonight. So that's Now we will move on to item 2.2. And this is an acknowledgement of our Hatch Bloomington Award winners. I'm sure you have all heard about Hatch Bloomington. If not, I don't know what else we can do, because, boy, this has been something that's been in the news, and it's been something we've been talking about, and has been a lot of buzz in the community. And I'm going to call up Sean Lundy, who is our staff member, who is basically spearheading the Hatch Bloomington effort, and have him explain the information and the details and some of the process that we went through to get to this point.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. So if you'll remember, almost exactly a year ago, I think it was October 9th, 2023, we pitched Hatch to you guys at a City Council meeting, and I'd say there was I'm trying to think of an egg joke, but I think it was well received. So since then has been very busy, and I know that we have at least 3 of the judges sitting up here who can attest to that. But we launched the program in January, where we put out an application for judges. We had 16 applications, and we selected 3 to be community judges. 3 of you guys ended up serving, and we have 1 picked from the regional chamber. So I do want to make a point that all the judges should come up after this for the photo op. Make sure to put that out there. Applications for the program opened in April, and we had 117 applications were started, and we had 64 that were successfully completed. So it was a highly competitive program. We ended up narrowing that down as a team to 25, so that in June we had the top 25 pitch competition. Up on the screen you'll see a collection of those business proposals. It does not include those that moved down to the top 10. So then moving into July, we were able to narrow that down to a selected 10, and we announced that and had the top 10 pitch event at the end of July. And that was unique because we also had community participation. We wanted to make sure that the people of Bloomington had a say in this, as well as judge evaluations of that. And that brings us, I think there might be one more. Yep, the top 3 cohort, which happened in August. So I want to pause here before I go any further and bring up the next slide and make sure to thank our judge panel. Bonnie Carlson, Councilmember D'Alessandro, Antonelli Lindsay, Councilmember Moa, Billy Mazinga, Councilmember Nelson, and Clint Roberts. They played an instrumental role in the success of this program. And then I could not have done it without the Hatch Bloomington team, which includes Janine Hill, Eric Jewell, Emily Taplin, Dan Merfield, Ashley Clemmer, Ben Vinar, Grant Parker, and then Christine Levins and Francis Huntley from the Regional Chamber. So I could not have done it without them. It was a team effort. Now I want to ask the mayor to come up here. I know he's got some words he wants to say and some stuff to pick up real quick.
Before I get down there, Council, any questions of Sean about the process, about how we got to where we are today with Hatch Bloomington? Any questions? Good enough.
That's a good sign.
So when I said, I hope you've all heard of Hatch Bloomington, raise your hand if you have heard of Hatch Bloomington, or at least heard about it and heard about the program. It was, I think it was an enormous success for the community in a lot of different ways. It brought together a huge number of entrepreneurs with their great ideas, everybody bringing forward their best ideas, and it gave them the opportunity to refine a pitch, to talk about what they were trying to do, to kind of envision a bigger and bolder and a better Bloomington. And I thought it was fabulous for the entrepreneurs. I thought it was a fabulous opportunity for community engagement. We made the entrepreneurs present publicly and talk about what they were going to do publicly. This wasn't behind closed doors. They had to be up in front of folks, and they had to put it on the line, which, by the way, I think is a very courageous thing to do. And they all did an outstanding job. They got coaching from our judging panel. They got coaching from other professionals involved in it. It was fabulous. From a community perspective, we had 2 rounds of community voting where people could log in and vote who they wanted to be part of. And it was, I think, very great for the city of Bloomington. There was just a lot of buzz going on about what was happening around Hatch Bloomington. And when I say a lot of buzz, and I just got these this evening, the media monitoring services said that Hatch so far has had 92 articles written about it in the Twin Cities. That information has reached 56 million people, and the publicity value of all of that is $650,000. So by all of those measures, and probably a number more, this was an enormous success. And I want to congratulate and thank Grant and Nick and Scramblin' Egg for their first place finish, for winning the $100,000 grand prize. And I realized as I walked down here, what I didn't bring with me were the two important parts, because nothing says you've won like a check that is basically the size if you've won, the Greater Hartford Open or something like that. This is perfect. So I would like to invite Grant and Nick up here. I want to present you with a check. I want you to present you with a plaque to hang on your wall. Congratulate you, and turn the microphone over to you if you will. Come on over. Congratulations. Standing by.
Got the big shot. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Very good. And I also have, so when, not if, but when that brick and mortar shop opens for Scramblin' Egg, one of the first things we'd like you to hang on your wall is the certificate of winning, basically, the inaugural Scramblin' Egg competition. So I want you to put that on your wall as well. Absolutely. So very well, congratulations. And I also, and we talked about this a bit earlier, with the success of Scramblin' Eggs and with the success of Hatch Bloomington and all that we've got going on, I think it's an absolute no-brainer that we need to tackle this again next year. We need to do this again next year. And I pointed out to these gentlemen that they are now our proof point. They're going to be the spokesperson for Hatch Bloomington, showing what can be done, what can be accomplished, and how to get it done. And so I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to our continued relationship with the Minneapolis Regional Chamber, and appreciate the time and effort and financial resources that came from the Minneapolis Regional Chamber, greatly appreciated. To our staff who are here, and I know there were a bunch, I appreciate Sean reading all of your names, a lot of folks who were involved with it. Thank you for the great work that you put into it. To our judges, that was a lot of time. That was a big commitment. So thank you to our judges for the work that you put into it as well. And thanks to everybody in the community who played along and took part in this kind of innovative, kind of fun, kind of exciting project that we had that is unique here for Minnesota. And you've heard me say before, you're doing something right in city government when other cities copy you. And now granted, we borrowed this from Hatch Detroit, but now that we've shown that it can work in a city not quite as big as Detroit, but a city the size of Bloomington, a suburban city in Minnesota, I bet I've had about a dozen calls from mayors in other cities across the state who would like to do the same thing. So hats off to you all. Gentlemen, congratulations to you. Well done. And looking forward to cutting the ribbon at Scramblin' Egg, the bricks and mortar building. So well done. Thank you. Thank you. You guys want to say anything? Yep, please.
All right. Well, we'll keep it brief because I know everyone's pretty busy tonight. But we just wanted to say thank you to everyone. We want to start with our fantastic team at Scramblin' Egg. We couldn't have done it without our team members. We got a good crew behind us. Nick and I had to step away a lot to work on this, and our team members stepped up and really got the job done. Thanks to our friends and family. They got the word out. Nick's dad, he picks up food for us on Saturdays because we get so busy. My mom and my dad's helped fix the trailer. My mom cuts veggies. She helps. All the other contestants in the Hatch competition, there were some really cool ideas out there. Would have been nice to see everyone win. But I wish all of them nothing but the success. I hope they can get to that level they want to get to. Also, all the judges, thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it. There were some really good questions that we needed to answer, and I think Councilmember Nelson had a good question, and I wasn't able to answer it, and I went home and I got the answers, so thank you for asking. That was our break even, very important. Also, all the Hatch members, Sean, thank you for putting this all together. I mean, a lot of people were involved, so thank you very much. This was fantastic. City of Bloomington, thank you. I think a lot of places say like they care about small businesses, but I think it says a lot to actually do something that shows that the city of Bloomington cares about small businesses. So super cool to see. And finally, all of our great customers at Scramblin' Egg, thank you so much for going out and voting. getting the word out. We really couldn't have done it without you. One of our regulars, Sue, she was there like 2 minutes after we heard we won, and she gave me like the biggest hug I've probably ever gotten in my entire life. She was super excited. So it was really cool just seeing the community come together and kind of stand behind us and push us to the finish line, because the main thing we've learned is like Bloomington, the people of Bloomington, like they love seeing small businesses start here. And once they see one start, they kind of latch onto you and they want to grow with you. So really cool to see. Thank you, everyone.
How cool is that, isn't it? It's very cool. We're going to move on in our agenda and get to our proclamations for this evening. And our first proclamation tonight is for Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month, with is September 15th through October 15th, 2024. I can do that. I will do that. And I know we're going to have translation as well as I read this. Why don't we do this? Is Adelita?
Nice to meet you. Adelita.
Adelita, very
Adelita.
nice. Adelita, very nice to meet you. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for helping us
My
out.
pleasure. Nice to meet you as well.
As we do our proclamation here, why don't we do this a whereas at a time, rather than powering through the entire thing at once?
Sounds good.
I'll do a whereas. You can do you can do it right back at me, and we can go from there. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. You know what? I think I've got one more that I can put up. Here it is. There it is. And I think we have from Bloomington Schools. Do we have Jessie Martinez with us this evening? There she is. Would you like to join us as well up here? And Miguel Hernandez as well from the chef at El Tejabar and Litos Barritos. Very good. I heard a yay behind me. So, if you could just join us right here. You got to get in the camera shot. You know, it's perfect. Thank you. Once again, a proclamation for Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, 2024. Whereas in 1988, the United States Congress adopted a resolution designated September 15th to October 15th of each year as National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Ciudad de Bloomington, proclamación, mes del legado latino hispano, 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre de 2024, considerando que en 1988 el Congreso de los Estados Unidos adoptó una resolución designando el mes de 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre de cada año como el mes nacional del legado hispano.
And whereas September 15th is the anniversary of independence for 5 Latin American countries: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Additionally, Mexico achieved independence on September 16th, and Chile achieved independence on September 18th.
Considerando el 15 de septiembre es el aniversario de la independencia de 5 países latinoamericanos: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras y Nicaragua. Adicionalmente, México obtuvo su independencia el 16 de septiembre y Chile la obtuvo el 18 de septiembre.
And whereas the Latinx Hispanic community's rich cultural heritage has had a profound influence on our country through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, service to their community, and sacrifice for our country. They have enhanced and shaped our national heritage with centuries of traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their community.
Considerando que el rico legado cultural de la comunidad latina hispana ha tenido una influencia profunda en nuestro país gracias a su fuerte compromiso hacia la familia, la fe, el trabajo duro, el servicio a su comunidad y el sacrificio por nuestro país. Ha realizado y dado forma a nuestro legado nacional con siglos de tradiciones que reflejan las costumbres multiétnicas y multiculturales de su comunidad.
And whereas here in Bloomington, we believe diversity is a strength. More than 7,600 Latinx Hispanic residents are part of our Bloomington community. We remain committed to ensure Latinx Hispanic residents who call Bloomington home have every opportunity to achieve their dreams. To new immigrants in Bloomington, we welcome and want you to feel safe and at home.
Considerando que creemos que la diversidad es fortaleza, hay más de 7,600 residentes latinos hispanos en nuestra comunidad de Bloomington. Estamos comprometidos a asegurar que los residentes latinos hispanos que han establecido su hogar en Bloomington tengan todas las oportunidades posibles de alcanzar sus sueños. Les damos la bienvenida a los nuevos inmigrantes en Bloomington y deseamos que se sientan seguros y en casa.
And whereas the City of Bloomington's new employee resource group, the Hispanic Latino Organization for Leadership, or HOLA, serves as a vital community within the City of Bloomington, fostering an inclusive environment where Latino employees can connect, share experiences, and advance their professional growth. By celebrating Latino culture and providing valuable insights, HOLA enriches the organization's diversity initiatives, promoting cultural awareness and driving innovative solutions.
Considerando que honrar y celebrar la historia, vitalidad económica y diversidad de la comunidad latina hispana es importante para construir y afianzar las relaciones entre todas las comunidades de Bloomington y Minnesota. Por lo tanto, queda resuelto que yo, Tim Booth, alcalde de la ciudad de Bloomington, proclamó mediante el presente que el mes del 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre de 2024 es el mes del legado latino hispano.
And whereas honoring and celebrating the history, economic vitality, and diversity of the Latinx Hispanic community is important for building and bridging relationships among all Bloomington and Minnesota communities.
Me van a disculpar, voy a volver a interpretar. Considerando que honrar y celebrar la historia, vitalidad económica y diversidad de la comunidad latina hispana es importante para construir y afianzar las relaciones entre todas las comunidades de Bloomington y Minnesota.
Now therefore be it resolved that I, Tim Bussey, Mayor of the City of Bloomington, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2024 as Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month, dated the 16th day of September 2024.
De nuevo, por lo tanto, queda resuelto que yo, Tim Booth, alcalde de la ciudad de Bloomington, proclamo mediante el presente que el mes del 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre del 2024 es el mes del legado latino hispano.
Well, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
You sounded much better than I did. And very well done.
I messed
Thank
up, though.
Jesse Miguel, would you like to say anything? Please.
And I just want to clarify, I will be starting my acceptance speech in Spanish first, and then I'll translate it in English. Nomás para clarificar, voy a empezar mi discurso en español y luego lo voy a hacer en inglés. Buenas noches a todos. Me gustaría agradecer a todos los que han hecho esta noche posible. Alcalde, consejo del municipal y personal de la ciudad de Bloomington, gracias por reconocer todas nuestras contribuciones a la ciudad de Bloomington. Estaba muy emocionada al saber que me tomaron en consideración para aceptar la proclamación del mes de la herencia hispana junto a otro latino legendario, Miguel. Este mes es de demostrar nuestro orgullo por nuestras raíces, ser orgullosos de todos lo que somos, reconocer todo lo que hemos logrado y seguir esforzándonos por ser la mejor versión de nosotros mismos. Los animo a que apoyen a los negocios locales hispanos, latinos, no solo durante este mes, sino durante todo el año. Me gustaría finalizar este discurso pidiendo a todos que sigamos reflexionando sobre el trabajo que estamos haciendo y el poder que tenemos para lograr cambios efectivos, especialmente durante este momento crucial. No nos vamos a comer a sus mascotas, solamente queremos salir adelante. Good evening, everyone. I would like to start off by thanking everyone that has made tonight possible. Mayor, City Council, and the City of Bloomington staff, thank you for acknowledging all of our contributions to the City of Bloomington. I was delighted to hear that I was taken into consideration to accept the proclamation of Hispanic Heritage Month along another legendary Latino, Miguel. This month is about being proud of our roots, embracing everything that we are, all that we have achieved, and continue to strive to be the best version of ourselves. I encourage you to support local Hispanic Latino businesses, not only during this month, but throughout the year. I would like to finish this speech by asking all of us to continue to reflect on the work that we are doing and the power that we have in order to make effective change, especially during this crucial time. No, we will not be eating your pets. We are just hungry for a better life. Thank you.
Hello, hi. Thank you. I'll be pausing for the professional here. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, City of Richfield, for having me here.
Bloomington.
Yeah, here. Sorry, Bloomington.
Come on, man, you're killing
Sorry,
it.
Richfield was last week. I'm sorry. Yes, Bloomington. Si quiere tomar turnos.
Está bien. Va a tener que volver a repetir,
sí.
disculpe.
Comenzamos desde aquí.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a lot more casual. I can't beat that. I grew up in Bloomington since I was in first grade. So I speak from experience, what my experiences are here, being someone welcome to this community. And I did face some obstacles. In first grade, I was like one or two of Latinos in the school. There's obstacles, but there's always the reminder of my mom and my neighbors who spoke to your community here, and they would like you to be here.
Bien, yo crecí aquí en Bloomington. I can't do it.
Oh, no, sí, yo crecí aquí y desde el primer grado aquí y puedo hablar de experiencia de cómo es crecer en Bloomington. Y había muchos obstáculos y yo creo que pasé muchas experiencias, pero siempre tenía el orgullo de mi mamá y mi comunidad diciendo que hay estúpidos, pero también hay mucha gente buena aquí en Bloomington. And I was always told to be proud, to be proudful of being Latino, to be Mexican, to be Chicano. But it's hard to when you don't see those reflections in your community. And I'm really proud to be here in Bloomington because we had the opportunity to grow into that. And I'm really proud that Bloomington is a place that you can do that, even though you might have obstacles. Desde niño me dijeron que tenía orgullo en ser latino, chicano, mexicano, pero fue difícil para mí porque no tuve la gente que me muestre esas cosas. Pero estoy orgulloso que Bloomington es un lugar que puede crecer eso. Esto significa mucho a mí, a mi familia, y muchas gracias a todos aquí en la ciudad de Bloomington. And yeah, this means a lot to my family, to our community. I relay everything Jesse said before, and we're really proud to be here in Bloomington. Thank you.
Mil disculpas. Que no
Oh, no,
pude interpretar.
está bien.
And I apologize to everybody. I wasn't able to do that.
Oh, no, you did wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And now the important part, of course, we have to do what they call the grip and grin. So we have to get in here and accept the proclamations, please. You can join us here as well. Do you want to come up as well, Mr. Eric? Or? No? Okay. There is our camera. Very good. Congratulations. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
tonight.
for the time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you for helping us out. Our next proclamation is item 2.4, and this is for the International Day of Peace. And we have Nancy Johnson. Is that you, Nancy? Come on and join me, please. Please, please, please. You're a faculty member at Normandale?
I am.
And what do you teach?
I teach in the health science area.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to read the proclamation, turn the microphone over to you. We'll do the grip and grin. We'll do the whole thing. See?
Okay, perfect.
Very
Thank you.
good. This is a proclamation for the International Day of Peace, September 21st, 2024. Whereas the issue of peace embraces the deepest hopes of all peoples and remains humanity's guiding inspiration. And whereas in 1981, the United Nations proclaimed the International Day of Peace be devoted to commemorating and strengthening the ideals of peace both within and among all nations and peoples. And whereas as our communities and our world continue to see a rise in division and conflict, our city remains dedicated to peace, which affirms a vision of our world at peace and fosters cooperation between individuals, organizations, and nations. And whereas the year 2024 marks 17 years of Civic Plaza as a peace site, which represents our commitment to seek peace within ourselves and others, reach out in service, protect the environment, respect diversity, foster inclusivity, and be responsible citizens of the world. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Tim Bussey, do hereby proclaim September 21st as the International Day of Peace, dated the 16th day of September, 2024. Now, this is an international Day of Peace, but this is also an annual thing we've been doing here in the city of Bloomington for as long as I've been around. And it's nice as different proclamations come up each year, and we have an opportunity to read them again each year. And I so appreciate this one, and I appreciate the fact that Civic Plaza, this entire campus, is a peace site here in the city of Bloomington. And I know there are others as well. I think we have one over at Normandale Lake. I know that I helped dedicate a peace pole at Jefferson High School. So different opportunities throughout this community. But it's just a wonderful kind of acknowledgement about the importance of something as basic and as simple as peace in our world. So thank you for being with us today. And I will turn this over to you. And I love the outfit, by the way. So
Peace,
wonderful.
baby. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you, council people. Okay. And the city of Bloomington and Normandale Community College, I want to say thank you to all of you. I am honored to be here accepting this peace proclamation on behalf of Normandale Community College. I like the idea of the peace pole. I think Normandale should have one. Dr. Esther, just saying. The International Day of Peace is celebrated annually. This year's theme is, I was looking it up to see what's going on in this world. Actions for Peace, our commitment to the global goals. The UN's mission for this day is, and always is, to foster international education and build sustainable communities like Bloomington and Normandale. This event unites global leaders, educators, and activists in a collaborative effort to promote peace, understanding, and positive change. And I'm hearing so many positive things here. I'm absolutely loving this. This is great. This is my MO, peace. I love it. So what does peace really have to do with all of us right here sitting in this meeting or online? A lot, really. Peace starts right here with you and with me. What does peace mean to you? Something to think about when you have a moment to yourself. And then what can you do to spread peace in your own world? Peace can mean many things, including things like freedom, harmony, compassion, selflessness, acceptance, growth, aspiration, happiness, getting along with everyone regardless of race, beliefs, culture, gender, or social status. I myself personally have a big definition too, but I do believe that peace is freedom from violence from peers, partners, family, strangers, and so on. It's compassion for all people. Peace to me means being in harmony with myself, with others, and with the world that's around me. It starts with inner peace, which is a deep sense of calm. It's also acceptance and contentment in my life. Doing everything in the name of love and with love. A culture of peace has been a dream and a hope for hundreds of thousands of people, or how should I say, for humans, okay, for thousands of years is what I'm trying to say. As I mentioned, peace embraces far more than an absence of conflict. It encompasses tolerance, disarmament, sustainable economic and social development, democratic participation, gender equality, freedom of expression, and respect for human rights. A culture of peace is a set of values, a culture of peace, a set of values, attitudes, traditions, and modes of behavior and ways of life. Bloomington, the city, and other cities, all cities, have the reach. We have the reach, we have the authority, we have the responsibility, and the influence to set the positive tone and direction for so many people. This acknowledgement and the fact that we are having this discussion and sharing this proclamation shows how we believe in the importance of peace. Education, government, business, and our environment working together are essential for living in and with peace. I can see that growing culture of peace is alive in Bloomington. I can see it at Normandale Community College. Embracing peace keeps us all together. It keeps us healthier, seriously, individually healthier, happier, more prosperous, sustainable, and we continue to grow a legacy for future generations. We can start by doing little things for ourselves, self-care like eating better, the best that we can for ourselves to fuel our bodies, getting good sleep, getting rest, exercising, meditating, and being mindful in our daily activities. Taking care of ourselves will help when we get into difficult things in life, and we're able to then handle them in a more peaceful manner. Learning to live in peace and harmony is a long-term process, and it begins with the development of that inner peace I was just talking about, and nurturing attitudes that promote the expansion and integration of peaceful principles. Education and awareness raising play a key role in this process. Peace. What a beautiful word. Thank you so much to everybody. Normandale accepts the proclamation of peace. I thank all of you. And peace and love to every single one of you, too. Take care.
I love the comment. It's not, peace isn't necessarily the absence of conflict. There's much more than that. Absolutely. Let me present you that, and we will smile for the camera. Very good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And let me know when you get that peace poll in Normandale. I'll be happy to come over.
Yesterday?
Very good.
Let's talk. Thank you so much.
And our final proclamation for this evening is a proclamation for Constitution Week, which is September 17th through the 23rd. And I know we got Jan from the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I see we've got others here as well. And please, bring the gang on up. Come on up. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you.
I will read the proclamation and then turn it over to you. All right? This is a proclamation for Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd, 2024. Whereas September 17th, 2024, marks the 237th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law number 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore I, Mayor Tim Bussey, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2024 as Constitution Week in Bloomington, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Dated this 16th day of September, 2024. Now, let it be said, I will never break Public Law number 915. I would never dare do that. So I'm glad that we're doing this one more time this year, celebrating Constitution Week. So very happy to have you all here with us this evening, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to you, to anyone who would like to step on up.
Well, we're very grateful for this. We're both from different chapters. We're the Daughters of the American Revolution. So we love patriotism. We believe in education and historic preservation. We keep graveyards really clean with cleaning stones for people who are veterans around in various cemeteries. And we support a lot of veteran causes. And I'm from a different chapter, but this is your Bloomington chapter.
Hi, I'm from the John Witherspoon chapter. It's located here in Bloomington, and there are two other members here with me tonight. And I just wanted to also invite you to this Saturday from 2 to 4 at the Bloomington Historical Society. There is an event in conjunction with Constitution Week. It's a bell ringing event, and there'll be a short program, and then they'll ring the big steam engine bell that you have available there, and kind of a fun activity, and just a lot of education for individuals and especially kids to learn about the Constitution. So you're welcome to attend if you'd like, and we thank you to the mayor and the city council as well for this. I appreciate it.
I'm sure a lot of folks watching don't really understand what the Daughters of the American Revolution are, what you do, what the connection is. If you could just explain that, I think that would be very helpful for folks. Who wants to
defer to Fran. She's our
Fran,
expert.
here we go.
I can say it, but I think she'll do a much better job.
The Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit. Okay, there we go. We are a nonprofit, we are non-political, and we are a service organization for women, which was founded in 1890 and is over 100,000, actually over 1 million strong over the years. And we are also the proud owners of a whole city block in Washington, D.C., where we have our annual convention. But we do things with children, we do things with adults for learning about their heritage of patriotism and citizenship. And so we are just very thankful that we are able to have these proclamations and have the event on Saturday to encourage people to be patriotic without having to be politically patriotic. We can do it by being ourselves and enjoying the freedoms that we have in this country.
Very well said. Thank you. And to be clear, to be a daughter of the American Revolution, you have to be able to trace lineage back to
Yes.
someone who served in the Revolutionary War. Is that correct?
You have to trace your heritage by a direct line back to someone who was on the rebels' side in the American Revolution. You don't have to have them be a soldier. They could have been a preacher who preached against the British. They could have been someone who was a nurse and nursed the fallen soldiers, or someone who was a farmer and had and sold beef to the troops, or a miller who ground the corn or the wheat for the troops. So all of those things, or you could have been one of the early mayors who wasn't on the side of the British. So all kinds of different things. All kinds of different things that your ancestor could be. So if you are interested, see us later, and we'll be happy to help you get started.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for that explanation. And now let's all take a picture. Oh, you got one too? We've got all kinds of proclamations. Go ahead. Get in here, Fran. Sure. Come on. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Impressive.
Thank you. Thank you, Fran. Good to see you again. Thank you all. Very good. Council, next on our agenda, as we talked about when we accepted the agenda, we have moved up item 5.1, which is a timed item regarding the Community Health and Wellness Center feasibility study and business plan. So that will be our next item. And Katri, our Park and Rec Director, is here to kick us off. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of the council. We are here tonight to report back to you on a very significant milestone with the Community Health and Wellness Center. We have completed the feasibility study phase of this project. As you all know, we started this project in January. We have hired efficiently a really amazing team, most of which you see behind us this evening. In January, we hired Tegra to serve as our owner's rep and project manager. Carolyn is with us this evening. We hired Pros Consulting. Leon is with us here this evening. We hired HGA Architects in May, and Nancy and Glenn are here from HGA this evening, and we hired J.E. Dunn to serve as our construction manager in July. That alone was a lot over the last several months, but we have completed our feasibility study. We've done a lot of engagement. We've done a lot of stakeholder interviews. We've done literally thousands of hours of meetings between staff and our consultant teams. We'd like to report to you this evening in a very efficient manner a lot of information. With the approval of the City Council tonight, we plan to move to schematic design of the community center process tomorrow. So with that, I'd like to announce that the project is moving along really well. We're on schedule. We keep talking about time is money for this project, and we're moving along very efficiently. So with that, we're going to go through a lot of information very efficiently this evening. I would like to start out by introducing you to Nancy and Glenn and Carolyn.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome back. Good to see you again.
Great to be here. Thank you. Thanks. I'll take that. Council members, Mayor, great to be here again to present our findings from the programming feasibility stage of this project. A quick overview, we're going to talk about the schedule, some guiding principles, our engagement summary, sustainable goals, cost assessment will be with Carolyn, and then share with you some of the real recommendations of the amenities that we're hoping to bring forward in the next design phase. So quickly, the project schedule, as Anne shared, this project started way before even January when Tegra was hired. There was a lot of good work done really for the past 10 years. You were hearing from your community. And so we took all of that information and didn't start from zero when we started in May. This is the overview of the entire project that's really going to take us into 2027. But we're just in this first 4 months, this programming phase. So this slide is commenting that we have a lot of work to do, but we've made some really great progress. And the work that we've done over the last 4 months has really been focusing on the amenities, listening to the community. Lots of surveys have been out, and this has been work both from HGA but also from Pros Consulting, and so we're summarizing some of those findings tonight.
So often we start our projects by developing some guiding principles, and the City of Bloomington had a great foundation upon which to build guiding principles for this project. So, including moving Bloomington forward, the comprehensive plan, and other sources. We've developed our own communications and engagement plan for this project. And we started by asking the project team some prompts, like how will this project move those values forward that already exist? Who will the project serve? And we had an engagement process that Nancy's going to talk about a little bit. And then what ultimately will make the project successful? And that's this list of 9 guiding principles. I'm going to go ahead and read them. That's like the worst thing you can do with a PowerPoint slide, but I'm going to do it because they're really important to the decision-making process for this project. So creating a welcoming and equitable space for all, a safe, barrier-free, and equitable access. That's another important principle. The project should reflect and celebrate the diverse community of Bloomington. And of course, it should support community public health and wellness, as the name of the project might hint at. Layers of local. That was built off of some local engagement and initiatives just to try to create as much identity of Bloomington, build into as much Bloomington sense of self, I'll say, as possible. The next one, creating a flexible, functional, and collaborative spaces, all important to a new community center. The size of this project, the importance of this project will make it a regional draw. And so that's another thing that we have in our minds as we move forward. We're creating a fiscally and an operationally responsible facility. Leon's going to talk later about cost recovery. And of course, a unique and iconic design that sort of wraps all of this together.
So a high-level summary of some of the engagement we have done since January. There were stakeholder interviews with each of those groups. We had a statistically valid survey, which you have heard about in the past. There was a community survey as well as a public health survey. There were senior focus groups at Creekside and presentations there, a teen focus group, and of course, parents with young children. I've summarized just 3 of those here on the right because HGA was involved in some of those, but also it's some consensus building around some of the key amenities that we're going to be talking about in just a minute. So the statistically valid survey highlighted the four top needs: aquatics, indoor running and walking, cardio equipment, and fitness. Teens had some great overlap there, so aquatics programming being something that they desired, a cafe, a gymnasium, some outdoor community space, so that's a lot of community gathering in their mind, and that really aligned with what parents with young children were saying to us as well, thinking about outdoor play spaces, community gardens, spaces to meet. So we were happy to see that kind of alignment from those sources of engagement. Glenn?
Yeah,
sustainable.
As part of the visioning process, we have to talk about sustainability. This is something that I presented to you all before, so I'll just go over it really quickly. The importance of establishing measurable goals for the project so that we really know that we're walking the talk of the project, I'll say, and aligning with City of Bloomington initiatives that exists now and that may be coming in the future, all to have a positive impact on the community. And the recommendation was to comply with Minnesota B3 guidelines as a baseline, and then have a stretch goal of a net zero energy facility. This slide is what we call our project charter. This is kind of a one-pager that is sort of all the highlights. If someone asked you, what is this project about? You could hand them this project charter if it weren't a slide and if it was a piece of paper. And this includes the vision for the facility, sort of the qualitative, as well as some of the quantitative things, budget, some milestones, and the scope that's will be incorporated into the project. This is a living document. You'll notice under sustainability and equity goals, we've listed 2 sustainability goals. We met with the sustainability folks to come up with these goals as well as staff, and we're going to meet with the equity folks and come up with some specific goals for the project along those lines.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council members. We wanted to provide an update to the project budget this evening as well, as we are working to right-size the building to align with the project budget that's been allocated. We start to break down the overall budget into 3 categories. So we first look at hard construction costs. So we'll be working with our construction manager, J.E. Dunn, to better understand what those hard construction costs will be. Then we also break it down to furniture, equipment, and fixtures, so our FF&E, our soft costs, along with our design fees and consultant fees. So that is another bucket that we will begin to refine. And last but not least, we have a bucket for design and escalation contingencies. Understanding that we're very early in the process, things will continue to shift as we kind of do the push and pull, understanding what the building will be, and also understanding that we aren't slated to start construction until a year from now. So knowing that there will be material cost changes, labor cost changes, we want to make sure that we are saving some dollars and setting that aside for when we're really ready to put shovels in the ground. So we're still looking at ranges at this point in time. Again, early on in the design process. As we become more detailed in design, our budget will also become more detailed and start to narrow down those ranges that we have.
All right, so this programming phase that we've been in, feasibility phase, one of the major things that we've established is what are the types of spaces that will be needed in the building. So this is an overall summary of those space needs in sort of large categories or buckets we've been referring to it as. So public health will be in the building, aquatics programming, fitness, community programming, as well as some office space and just sort of general building support spaces. There have been some changes since last time we presented this to you. You'll notice the range of gross square feet at the bottom right, 111 to 116,000 gross square feet, is substantially smaller than the number we started off with, which was over 130,000. And the reason that is because we've gone through this process of essentially right-sizing the program. We started with the 2019 study program that was that larger number. We've gone through this whole process that Nancy outlined of engagement. We've been meeting with staff and stakeholders to land where we're at today. And so I'll give you some highlights of some things that have changed. One is the number of gyms. We have 2 courts or 2 gyms within the program. So that's something that has reduced about 9,000 gross square feet. We've also right-sized and provided the right quantities, I'll say, of program spaces. So those are event spaces, flexible spaces that you might have programming in. Public health has also really scrutinized their program need for offices, and we've been able to figure out how to share some of those office spaces between public health and Parks and Rec, like conference spaces, for instance. Some things have actually increased in size. The fitness area, the sort of cardio fitness equipment space has increased in size. The quantity of fitness studio spaces has actually increased to be 3. These are all driven by cost recovery data and also what we've heard out of engagement, and also the pool space itself, the natatorium space, has increased somewhat. So the next few diagrams I have to share with you may seem like we've figured out a site plan and building plans, but really these are high-level concepts. In some ways, I liken them to sort of a graphic accounting. In the case of the site plan that's on the screen now, it's what kind of spaces are needed on this site? What can we fit on the site, and what might that look like? And so the 4 major components that we've needed to make sure fit on the site is the building, of course. It's required parking, and then outdoor program spaces, outdoor site amenities, green space, that sort of thing. And then some more utilitarian functions with stormwater management space, as well as space for snow removal, snow storage in the winter. So those are pretty large categories of things, but all to say that those things fit on the site. We have a requirement for parking that's 440 stalls, and you can see here that the total stalls we're showing, which include surface parking on the site of 398 stalls, and then another 57 we're showing along Newton Avenue. Those are 455, so we're a little bit over the required target. So all this to say, we're not looking at structured parking, for instance, which was something we talked about last time. So transitioning to the building itself, or really building planning diagrams, I'll say. Sometimes it's hard even for me to look at a drawing like this and not think of it as a building. But it's really not a building yet, because we have to design, walls and spaces and, how the security works, all of this other stuff. So we're really operating on a level of how much space do we need on the site, how many floors might we need with the building, in this case too, and what things are located on what floors. So in the case of this diagram, you see this light yellow number 1, that's a main lobby. That's a public lobby that all of the program spaces are adjacent to. There's an entry on the east facing the parking. To the north of that entry, number 4 in the kind of, it's red on the screen, are program spaces. So multi-purpose programming space, event spaces. The green and the purple 7 and 6 there. That's public health is 6. 7 is the Parks and Rec office. We've co-located them so we can share some, conference rooms, that sort of thing, and then also create a control point for the building at the the Parks and Rec office. Number 1 in yellow, that's a cafe space, a publicly accessible space off the lobby. 5 is some party rooms that are adjacent to aquatics. Number 3, the cyan color. And then we've got an indoor play area indicated with number 5 in blue on the northwest corner. On the upper level, that is all fitness. So you see on the very east or right-hand side of the diagram, a couple of gym footprints. Those are the 2 gymnasiums. You can see to the south of that, we've kind of grayed in, I'll say, an alternate to add another gym in the future if needed. We're at least planning for its expansion, if not including it in the current project. The other fitness spaces on this level are a track that encircle the gym, as well as fitness studio spaces and sort of fitness equipment spaces. And then we're identifying the option or opportunity for some outdoor fitness studios located on some roof spaces. So it's a 2-story building. And that's what we have for you today.
Yeah, we'll hand it over to Leon and we can take questions as needed.
So, Council, do we have any questions specifically on what we've heard so far? Do you have questions, Councilmember Lohman? Okay, you want to wait then?
Just way forward.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and
Good evening.
Council.
Welcome.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
So I want to pick up where we are in our process, and okay, no, it's not moving.
I think it's
You didn't do it.
Okay.
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 Entered the matrix, I think.
Okay. Sorry. Say, Mayor, since we got a break in the action, maybe I can ask my question now.
While we're trying to dig our way out of the matrix here, maybe we can. Okay. Okay.
Oh, never mind.
We're good. Okay, we're back then.
Okay. So just to start with, a lot of times people say, why do you do a feasibility study when you have an improved building? But part of it is that when people start to understand how a building works like this, you really have to understand all the operating costs that are associated with it. So our work is to really take all the public input that was involved in this process and create a program plan working with the staff of how the building would actually be organized and programmed. A building like this will basically, we build the feasibility study on a set of assumptions. And the assumptions start with how many hours a week is this building going to be open? And currently right now we're planning 112 hours a week. So when you think about that, you think, okay, how does that work? That's 7 days a week, pretty much 5:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. When you think about a library, you think about a library is open 60 hours a week. So when we think about a building like that, it's double. So it takes double the amount of staff to basically make a building like this work. And a lot of times, because a lot of people we work with don't really understand the cost, but the cost is because of the amount of hours it's open. The other thing is you've got a $100 million building that you can't turn over to part-time people to operate. So I just share that with you because I think sometimes people don't understand how all the costs work together. So when we started this process, we looked at all the other providers in the market. Where are they and what are they providing? What are you providing? Kind of what is the cost associated with their service and how would that reflect here? We looked at the demographic and socioeconomic analysis of Bloomington and how that would play out. We looked at the trends in the marketplace here in relationship to not only the trends, but what's the future trends. All of you I had a chance to talk with. We did an online survey, we did a statistically valid survey, and then we developed kind of a vision based on what we heard from the community, both in the public engagement process and the surveys, to really help the architects create a design. So programs drive design. And the intent is, here's what your community desires, and then here's how this building can accomplish that. Recognizing that all the spaces in the building are not all recreation programs for programming. They serve a lot of other needs like public health, as well as providing administrative spaces, a lot of spaces for people to gather. And in the process, we end up working with the staff on building a program plan. And we had great participation by the staff and Ann's group in relationship to how the building would be programmed. Now, you know, when you look at this, you go, why do we have to program the building? Why can't people just walk in? Well, it doesn't, you could do that, but you're not really serving the widest age segment appeal. And you have a lot of needs in this community, and there are a lot of people who want space. And so the intent is we create as much space as we possibly can to serve everyone and give everyone an opportunity to enjoy the building. That's an overall theme. So we program the building at 70% of its capacity. You say, why can't we program at 100? Well, you have ingress and ingress of programs coming and going, setups, takedown, that kind of thing. And so there's a prime time and a non-prime time in the building, and we have to manage towards that. So we set up a set of business principles, and sometimes people say, why do we have business principles inside of a building like this? Well, it's costly to operate. And in doing that, it's about $6 million a year to operate, and we have to manage it in a very responsible manner. So in the process of doing, we created business principles. We established core programs that go in the building. There are really 7 key core programs. Aquatics is a core program. Fitness is a core program. Seniors is a core program. Health and wellness is a core program. Public health is a core program. Youth services is a core program. So we have to build that into the plan so everybody feels like the space was meant for them. And then part of that, we established what are the key performance measures that this building needs to demonstrate to the taxpayers as well as all of you that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And we worked with the staff to do that. And we established customer service standards, program standards, technology integration, and equitable access. So one of the things that all of you gave me feedback, and the public did too, is, you know, what is a cost recovery goal that's reasonable for this community? And so right now, you know, part of the goal is that we set to try to achieve that 60% of the building actually can generate some revenue, okay? That revenue can be through concessions, it can be through programs, it can be through whatever different types of revenue. And we pretty much break the revenue down into 5 categories. One is you could be a member. So if I want to join and I can be a member, I can come to the facility and pay a daily rate and use it without being a member. I can do a program. I can have a program, just take a program. I don't have to be a member. I don't have to pay to get in, but I can take a program. I can rent space in the building. So we have a lot of spaces that can be rented. And we do that so that people who don't want to use the building for health and wellness and sports can also use it for, they want to have an event in the building, so we want to set that up as an opportunity. And then we can have different types of activities that basically, like birthday parties and things that are associated with different types of celebrations in the building, and we want to be able to provide that as an alternative. Then we also looked at the staffing costs that are associated with it, as well as the operations and the internal charges that are associated with this building that the city has, as well as looking at all of the indirect costs that are associated with it to come up with this. Now, all of these costs that are outlined here, you've all got a copy of the business plan. You can see all the breakouts of it. So you know that these dollars are real dollars that are part of how the city operates and how it manages itself. So we start with, you know, the goal was really to be 100% cost recovery. Currently, we're at 90% right now. We had 9 points that we really wanted to focus on. First of all, a clear understanding of direct and indirect costs. You know, and there's a lot of indirect costs associated with managing a building like this as well as direct. We wanted at least, it says 50, but that's really 60% of the space in the building should produce revenue. Paid programs need to fill at least 70% of the operational costs. Program space is multifunctional and can serve a variety of uses. And that by multifunctional, it can do a lot of different things in the same space. And that's a really important thing because everybody wants to claim their space is their space. And then a lot of times people don't want to share. Well, the intent is we created the space to be multifunctional. So from 9 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, this space can be used for seniors. And then at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock or till 10 o'clock at night can be used for another purpose. But the important thing is it's multifunctional in its design. And that's part of our work, working with the design team. So, and that I always say that no single space should be created for only one use. So this allows for memberships, a daily access rate, signing up for programs, rental space, concessions is another source of revenue. It's small, but people expect it, and then really creating opportunities for sponsorships and earned income in the building, because this building will generate over 1 million visitors a year, and in the process, it has sponsorship value. And we want to look at how that sponsorship value done tastefully in the building can be accomplished. We also wanted to create a working pro forma, which both looked at revenue and expenses, and also that the staff can track on a monthly basis of how well they're achieving the outcomes of this building that were established in the design. And we want to incorporate a revenue philosophy for the facility and for the programs. And one of the things is, anytime you have a building like this, and I've been doing this for a long time, people want to give away space. And all I can tell you is, do everything you can not to do that, because once you entitle people, it's hard to get it back. And so the intent is be fair to everyone. That's been my biggest point. So within the organization, we've identified full-time and part-time staff. I think we have 16 full-time staff that are associated with the building, and a lot of part-time people who do different pieces of work to make this building work. You got a good team of people, they know what they're doing, so it's not that they don't, but it will be important to hire somebody who really has managed buildings like this before. So it'd be critical that you come out of the gate really, really successful with having a good team of people to manage it. So I mentioned about the staffing based on lean management, and all of this will be a constant update, because most of the time we anticipate, somewhere in the neighborhood 3,000 to 4,000 people a day through the building. But in the process of doing that, it could go up and down depending on how the building operates and functions. And really, you want to make sure that the staff and also the users really feel taken care of, and that's an important component. So you might have to add some additional positions. One of the ones that we've talked about is a development position, which basically is creating earned income in the building, and also developing a Parks Foundation who could really help you pick up those other pieces of the building that an operational cost. And then basically, you have a business plan now. It'll go through some changes, slight changes as the building changes. As Nancy and Glenn pointed out, the building is right at a stage now where they're going to start really getting into much more tighter design. And then as that happens, adjustments to the pro forma will be made to follow their design changes. So those are my questions. Any questions?
Thank you. Council questions. Councilmember D'Alessandro, and then Councilmember Lohman. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Would you mind pulling back the pro forma for me? Perfect. Thank you very much. So 2 questions here for you. First, can you just define, I think you went through them, but I just want to understand, the revenues come from admissions, programs, reservations, and other. What inclusive of those conversations, the comments you made, goes into other there?
Concessions as an example, rentals, where people want to rent space in the building. Sponsorships and naming. Well, you could put a naming right on the building. We haven't. We don't have that built in, but you could, because a building like this with that level of funding, people will buy a naming right for it if you're interested.
Right. Okay.
Partnerships. You'll have some partners who will want to put in revenue because they are a partner. You also have public health. That's outside of that they're contributing based on what they're doing now. Those are the other revenue sources.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wanted to just make sure, since it was a 10% or so of the overall revenue number, I wanted to make sure people understood what it was referring to. Okay, could you go to the personnel slide for me?
Okay. Oop, sorry.
That's okay. I would have overrun it myself. There you go. Perfect. And this may be a question for you more so, but this makes sense to me in terms of what it takes to run the building and the services associated with it. How many of these positions, not the part-time positions, because I understand they're seasonal and specific, how many of the other full-time positions exist in some way today as a result of staff that we already have that will be doing this work in the future?
Councilmember D'Alessandro, members of the council, all of our recreation supervisors that currently work for the city will be reassigned to a different percentage to the facility. For example, we have a recreation supervisor that works at Creekside that will 100% of his time will be allocated directly to the community center. Then we have some adult sports specialists that a percentage of their time. Allison, how many recreation supervisors total? We have 6 recreation supervisors total, and 5 of those 6 will have at least a percentage of their salary that will be allocated to the community center.
Okay. Would they be counted in these yellow
Yes.
buckets then?
Yes,
Okay,
they
so
are.
they're existing staff that they'll take on responsibilities, give or take a little. Okay. Which ones on here then are the net new full-time? Are they the green ones or the burnt orange ones or the blue ones?
Councilmember D'Alessandro, it's a combination,
Okay.
actually. So the community center manager is a new position. The fitness manager, aquatics manager, maintenance superintendent, assistant manager, those are new positions. Membership, childcare, maintenance technicians, recreation coordinator, and personal trainers are new full-time positions.
Okay, that's helpful. So my overall question, of all these boxes, it's not like we are wholesale hiring in a whole new team. We have some folks that are already on staff that will take on these responsibilities, but it sounds like 8 to 10 net new positions, if I'm guessing correctly, give or take. Does that sound right? Not including the seasonal ones, of course.
Councilmember D'Alessandro, members of the council, it probably actually is a little bit more than that.
Okay.
I think the message that I would like to share is this is a really large facility, as Leon mentioned, with about 112 hours during the week, that we need full-time staff coverage in this facility. It would, remembering that all of the staff already have full-time jobs here, so it's an attempt for staff to be as efficient as we possibly can, yet fully staff this facility as best we can. Now, having said that, I just want to reiterate that all of the positions that are listed here are included in that pro forma and the cost recovery expectation. So.
Right.
We'll continue to evolve all of the staffing needed for this facility as we enter schematic design and design development as well. We do believe that how we have this facility staffed, and how well we're able to provide customer service and maintenance to this facility is going to be critical to its success.
Sure. Great. I was going to ask the question about that it baked into the budget that you shared, but you already answered that, so I'm done. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Councilmember. Councilmember Lohman?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just ask about the gymnasiums. I see that on the survey that you've got 109 respondents that that utilize that facility for team sports and that type of thing. I think it's somewhere identified there within the high interest level. And what I wanted to just kind of understand, is it possible with those 2 gymnasiums that are proposed to try to pull off some type of programming there with those 2 gyms that are there?
Councilmember Lohman, members of the council, that's a great question. And we have spent countless hours as an entire team evaluating that very thing. When we started this process in engagement with our staff who program our gyms at the high schools currently, keeping in mind we don't have any gyms except the one gym at Creekside that is owned by the city. So we're running all of our programming out of the high school gyms. When we initially engaged our staff in what they would like to see to meet the needs of our programs and grow programs, they wanted 5 gyms. So realizing early on that we weren't going to be able to fit 5 gyms on this site or be able to afford 5 gyms, we said to our staff, what do you need to be able to offer the existing programs that you have today? And we identified 3 gyms. That will give us the ability to take the programming that we're currently offering at the high school and offer it at the community center. The gyms at the high schools are bursting at the seams. They're doing great. This community needs and wants additional gym space. As we're looking towards areas of the facility and the need to reduce the number of square feet for the facility, we had to take a really good, hard look at the program, the spaces, and how we were going to best meet the needs of the entire community with this facility. And one of the spaces that we decided to, at least at this stage in the process, we're not giving up on the 3rd gym for good, but at least at this stage of the process, we decided to reduce because it's a significant amount of square feet, and it's also a significant amount of parking requirement that goes along with it. So we have trade-offs with the at least temporary decision to reduce 1 gym. Trade-offs are that we will still be utilizing the high school gyms to do our adult programming that we're doing currently. The positive side for the community center is if we were to run those programs at the community center with 3 gyms, those gyms would be booked all the time doing that programming. So if we keep the programs at the high school gyms, it frees up the 2 gyms at the community center for a whole range of programming that we're not currently offering. So that does give us 2 new gyms to program for youth, families, adults that we're not currently doing. That is a real win for the community, certainly. And again, I mentioned that it's a reduction in the overall parking requirement for the facility as well.
Thanks for that. And what I'd be curious about is what that cost is, what the cost benefit is when we look to use those other gyms with the high school. And I'm not looking for that now, sure. And we can, I don't need to get into that level of detail, so we're just not there yet. But I would be concerned that if we're kind of putting ourselves in a position with that. And then my other question around the gymnasium is, are we only building it so that there's just that option of 3, or is there a possibility of getting to a 4th gymnasium with the space that we have? And I know we may not do that now. I think about this facility, we have spaces available so that we can kind of expand. That's one of the things that I like that past councils had done, is really set us up in a position where if we wanted to do that expansion, that it wouldn't be difficult to do. Is that possible to go to 3 or 4 spaces, or the 5th that the staff wanted with this space? I know I thought I heard you say that wouldn't be possible just with the constraints of the building itself where it is right now. Where do we stand with that?
Councilmember Lohman, members of the council, we will continue to evaluate this, and we have given the charge to HDA to design this facility with a thought for expansion in the future. We really do believe that will provide the best long-term solution for the residents of Bloomington moving forward. As we've been meeting with our colleagues locally and nationally, one of the questions that we've asked is, what do you wish you would have done differently? What have you changed? What have you you added or what do you need to add? And the things that we hear regularly is they don't have enough gym space, they need or have expanded aquatics, and their fitness spaces, whether it's weight equipment, cardio equipment, or group fitness class space, those are the areas that community centers typically try to add on to. So as we look to design this facility, as we go into schematic design and design development, we will definitely be designing the facility with the ability to expand moving forward.
Thank you. I know that when we took our tours a number of years back, that was one of the main things we saw. Just have a couple more questions here, and I'll try to make these a little quicker. I did see on the survey with the maker spaces, it had gotten a 129. You know, what is that? Are those single uses that's being asked there from the arts and crafts there, or is that something separate and different?
Councilmember Lohman, members of the council, maker spaces can be any form of a craft space. We have a lot of maker spaces currently at the BCA. We have a lot of maker spaces currently at Creekside. Could be everything from a quilter's room to a woodworking shop to pottery studios that we have here at the BCA.
So are those single-use spaces? Or?
They can be single-use spaces, or they can be multi-purpose spaces. The more specific you get, the less likely they are to be shared. For example, a wood shop isn't something that is likely to be shared just because of the type and size of the equipment in those spaces. But crafters, quilters, card making, you know, a lot of those smaller craft spaces are more easily shared spaces in multi-purpose rooms.
And then in terms of the admissions in the pro forma, it's about, was it 4 million that's in there with those different categories. You've got the couples in there, the families, the single. Some folks look at those numbers and say, well, gosh, are we really going to achieve that? What's the confidence level that we have in that pro forma that we have there? And I know that certainly we compared that to Eden Prairie and other places that are out there. Is that a realistic number that we're looking at there in that pro forma from the admissions piece?
Absolutely. Very conservative, actually. My feeling about it is we want to be conservative because we don't want to set the staff up. So the intent is just, again, knowing what you're putting in this building and knowing the need in your community. I'm really confident about it.
Yeah, because I've heard that kind of floating around out in the community that people are concerned about those numbers, and I just want to just assure that our staff has worked hard and they have brought back what's the most feasible, and in our tradition that we have is to be conservative in our estimates, and that we'd be able to meet that. And I just wanted to just be sure in terms of on that income side of it, because this is a rather large thing we're getting ready to do, and folks might be nervous about that side of the house, but I feel pretty confident that staff is bringing us numbers that are relatively realistic.
This had a lot of staff input, a lot, so it's not like we made it up. So the intent is that, two, there's a lot of factors that play into having a great center. One, you have to have great programmers. Programmers drive all the energy in the building. They bring new people in. They constantly help the community to see the value of the building. That's number one. Two is you got to do marketing. We have marketing money. I think we have 5% of the budget in here for marketing and the intent is we have a balance between people who register for a program and people who want to rent the space. So we constantly are feeding ourselves. People go, oh, I haven't been in that building. Now I'm in. Oh, now I can take something associated with it. So, and we want to balance off between members. Daily, people can just walk in and take advantage of the building. They can take a program. The intent is, or rent space, that we've given every opportunity for people to enjoy the building. So, I'm real comfortable with the numbers.
Thank you for that. I know I was a skeptic of the cost recovery, but wow, you guys have put together some numbers that are pretty impressive. So we'll see if we get to 100%.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I'll remind you also, it's not just the revenue, but it's also the expenditures, and which is why we bring in experts who know what they're talking about.
Well, I'm less concerned about that because I have a lot of confidence in our staff to get those expenditures down, and we've been able to do that. So
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just have a couple of quick comments. I totally understand the rationale for removing the third gym. I am a little bit concerned about that. Like you said, and the activity centers are bursting at the seams, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that has heard from different organizations who are competing for those spaces and not being able to get in. And so if we were to be able to have 3 gyms for our own programming plus being able to rent to community organizations, I think that would be ideal. So I'm just putting it out there since I know nothing is final yet, but I understand the constraints. I also want to just thank you for all of the awesome work that has been done. I mean, obviously, under your leadership, you made the right decisions to bring in these amazing consultants, and I think what you guys have put in front of us and all of the community engagement has been really fantastic, and I appreciate that. And I also want to thank staff for working with the current Creekside folks who go there for different programs to make sure that, as we start to make this transition to start the project, that their programming is taken care of in the meantime, that they're being relocated, and that almost everything is going to be continuing in some way. And so really appreciate that you've taken all of those extra steps to make sure that they're taken care of. And then I don't want to be rude, but it's my son's 14th birthday tonight, and I am leaving because we're going to go to dinner. He actually wants to have dinner with me, and for anybody who has had a 14-year-old son, that's a huge win. Yeah. So I know. So I am going to be leaving, but again, just wanted to get a couple quick comments in there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Council, additional questions here? Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize if I missed anything in the presentation, but just 2 quick points. I know it's not really succinct on the plan, but I want to see whatever we can do to have outdoor amenities as well with this. Our original task force, 3 of the 5 recommendations they made were to combine indoor and outdoor amenities for people. So I think that's absolutely critical based on the input of the task force. And the second thing in this, again, I apologize if this was gone over, but there in the pro forma, it is, there's some sheets that show the assumptions you're making in terms of cost recovery. And I think it's important for people to understand what you're looking at as assumptions for particularly our senior programming, which I think you noted as 50 plus, and I just want to note that 50 is not that old. So just saying. But I may have just had a birthday last week, and it may not have been my 50th, but I have 360 some days left. So I bring that up because I know there's concerns within the community that exists there that enjoys that space, and we want to be respectful of them. But I think it's important to take a look at what you are looking at in terms of at least the initial model. No final decisions have been made in terms of cost recovery and projections, because so many of the existing programs are in there at 0 additional cost. I mean, when I looked at the list, it was well over half of them were at no cost. And so I think that's important to reflect and let the community know about at least what the assumptions are at this point. And maybe
I'll just comment that we took the same amount of money that you're investing in Creekside now, and we just took that same tax dollars and added it just to the pro forma. So that's where that's coming from.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for reflecting that very simple answer. And I just want people to know that I've got a ton of respect for the people that have used that for decades and want to make sure we can maintain those existing programs as much as absolutely possible. So thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Councilmember Nelson, actually, I did have a comment as opposed to a question. And I think this is in the packet, but I didn't see it in the presentation. So I don't know if I'm pointing you all in the right or wrong direction here. But I think in addition to acknowledging, because I do think that we've definitely heard as council that there concerns, not understanding whatever the thing is about the programming at at Creekside, and what will continue, what will not continue, et cetera. There's been this clash between the programming and facility, and I think a lot of people have gotten that mixed up, right? So just because a facility is changing doesn't mean the programming won't exist. It may not exist in the form that you see it in today because it's in a different building or it's in a different part of the building or whatever, but it doesn't mean that the programming is going away. And so for those folks that are online now, if I look at this, and I think it's page 127, there's at least, I can't do that math fast, 5, 10, 15, 20, at least 30 programs. I'm going to go with 50 programs.
It's
Is it
at
closer
least
to 50?
45.
45,
Yeah.
thank you.
45.
45 programs identified explicitly in the documentation dedicated to people over 50. That includes everything, bingo, wood carvers, garden club, country music jammers, Club 500, quilting, pinochle, mahjong. I mean, it's all over the place here, and it's great. It's wonderful. I don't think that's bad, but I don't think that people, like, I really want to encourage people to look at the full business plan that's in our packet, because these slides do not do it justice. I mean that as a compliment to you all and the great hard work that you do. These slides are but a small fraction of the detailed information that people can get. I just had a constituent conversation this morning, and for an hour and a half, we were able to talk about the details behind this project. It's not that dissimilar, in my opinion, to the Parks Master Plan, which we spent a lot of time going through, right? Very similarly here, people have the opportunity to take a look at this. And if you don't like something here, or you want to, like, kick the tires on a number, or you want to get, say like, hey, how come it costs $1 million to do building maintenance? Well, you can see it listed line by line by line what they're making decisions about. And and so I really, really recommend anybody who is truly interested in this program to get educated on this program using this incredibly well documented and comprehensive report as a starting place, so we can have intelligent conversations about what the challenges are. And I hope everybody will do that, and that my phone will start ringing off the hook because people have good questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Well said. Councilmember Lohman.
I have a couple of questions that are out there about trying to utilize these dollars or move the community center to a different location. And I wanted to just give you the opportunity to talk about what the feasibility of that would be or would not be.
Councilmember Lohman, members of the council, I believe the city council made it very clear that the Creekside Community Center site was the location of our new community center before we started the referendum process this past year. So that is the assumption that we have been working on all along, and that's what the Bloomington voters voted on in the referendum last fall.
Yeah, and those dollars are, my understanding, are pegged to that location, right? I mean, we couldn't just move it to a different location, right?
I think, Councilmember, they're pegged to the project, not necessarily the location.
Right, so we could.
The council determined the Creekside Community Center site was the appropriate.
Sorry, just
site
my
for
understanding that when we took that vote, that also it was also with the location as well. So thanks for clarifying that for me.
And yes, absolutely. The as Ms. Catry said, the referendum last fall that was approved by Bloomington voters. I mean, we were pretty specific that it would be at the the corner of.
Yeah, that's more sort of the point I was trying to make, and I thought for sure it was in the referendum. So to turn around and then try to move it, I think that would be a problem if we tried to do that. So.
I would agree, and I would think. I'll be honest, I have not heard that from anyone, and I think for the one or two folks that you probably have heard that from, I don't know that it's at all realistic to, at this point in the game, to try and think of a new location and basically start from scratch again, especially as we've talked about already. As Ms. Catry said, time is money in this project, and to go back to square one and it would result in a less than perfect or a less than optimal facility for us. And so I don't even think that's something we can continue.
Yeah, certainly. I just want to knock that down right now. And it's more than one or two people. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it forward. I'm not I waste time on it, one or two people, but just want to be sure that we're really clear about that. And I guess I just had just some comments here. I just want to say that we've really been at this for a long time, and I'm really happy to see that we're hopefully going to finish this thing in the next couple of years here. And I want to thank staff really just for what has transpired here. I mean, the work that has gone through this, all these times to get to this point has been outstanding. And so I really want to see this get past the final things. And I really think we have thought about this. We've iterated on this and gone over it over and over and over again. This is it, guys. I really believe this is the end of this long trail that we've been on, and I can't wait to see this open up in a couple of years here. And again, this is just a heavy tribute to staff's willingness to stick with this, and also our council's willingness to, in your leadership, Mayor, to kind of move us along and keep us on this pathway. So I'm excited about this. I'm really looking forward to it, and the details are going to be great when we get there.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rivas.
I'm going to make a lot of trouble now. No, I'm kidding. I just want to get a clarification on the $300,000+ being moved to this project from the Creekside. Is that for the purpose of subsidizing the people that cannot afford to potentially pay fees, or just to potentially add programming to the building? What is the purpose of that?
Councilmember Rivas, members of the council, the intent of us asking the council to continue the $385,000 subsidy for senior programs was to give us the ability to continue to offer the great majority of the programs that we're currently offering at Creekside Community Center for a low, free, or significantly reduced cost. That is the money that currently supports staff and currently supports the programming for that facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Any additional questions? Councilmember Mua.
Thank you, Ms. Catcher, for that. I've made it very clear that I have children, and my interest is with families and families with children. I am interested in doing something similar that we do with our current seniors for families. Because if we're looking to grow this community center to be multi-generational, having two spectrums coming together and supporting them equally or in part would give us that ability to change the atmosphere, the culture of that community center, so that when seniors come in, they can interact with children and have that kind of jubilation that children bring. And then having those kids learn from those seniors of the stories of Bloomington and the history that we have together, that's what gets me really excited for it. And so having this kind of same support that we have with our seniors, with our young families, will go a long way. Because I know in Bloomington, we have a large spectrum of socioeconomic class and everything like that. And so being able to make sure that every family in Bloomington can come to Bloomington and stay in Bloomington to enjoy these facilities is something that's very important to me, and that's something I would like to see as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Just one final question, and Councilmember Lohman's comments brought it up, and also the fact I was cleaning off my desk today and found the sheet that you had handed out showing the intersecting lines of stages of a project and ability to influence change in that project. Could you perhaps remind us all where we are in the stages of the project and what the ability is now to influence any kind of changes in that project at a cost that isn't going to blow the budget completely to the moon?
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the question, Mayor. That's a really good statement. I should have brought it to show everyone. It's something that we will continue to remind the council and the community as we go through this process. So we are at a stage in the feasibility study getting ready to move to schematic design. Then after schematic design finishes, which will be the end of the year, we'll move into design development. That'll take us for the first several months of next year. As we continue to move through the phases of design, the ability to change direction in any way, shape, or form becomes more difficult and gets more expensive until it reaches the point where it just becomes cost prohibitive. So we're really hoping that council feels that we are on the right track in this stage of the game, and we'll continue to refine what you see this evening, because it will become more difficult and more expensive to make significant changes moving forward.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, I think, so. Is there anything else?
The only other thing, I want to recognize Allison Warren and Leah Hughes. They have been absolutely instrumental in getting us to the point we are with the feasibility study as well. They have spent just countless hours on the project, so I just want to recognize them.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you all. Well, thank you for the presentation. Thanks for the information. Council, any additional questions, comments on this?
When's the next update, Mr. Mayor?
Pardon?
When's the next update for council?
When will we see you again?
That is a great question, Councilmember D'Alessandro. I don't have an actual date that we are going to be presenting back to the City Council, but I will tell you that we intend to handle this project just like we do the rest of our park projects that we have worked through the Park System Master Plan. So we will be giving a significant presentation to the City Council during the schematic design process, the design development process, and then the completion. So I commit that to you in public presentations, but also if there is anything that we need feedback from the council on as we work through the process, we'll be coming back to you before then as well. We also will be releasing very soon, probably within the next week or two, the next round of community engagement initiatives that we'll have moving forward. And just a reminder, bloomingtonforward.org is the place that you can find any information about the project and community engagement coming up.
Thank you for that.
September 28th is our first community engagement event for the community center. It's from 4 to 7 and it's at Creekside.
Thank you. Council, if there's nothing else, I would look for a motion right now to approve and accept the Community Health and Wellness Center Feasibility Study Report and Business Plan.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Lohman and second by Councilmember Mua to accept and approve the Community Health and Wellness Center Feasibility Study Report and Business Plan. No further council discussion on this? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the information and for the work that has gone in so far and the work that is to come. Back to our agenda, Council, and we were going to moving now to item 3, our consent business. Councilmember D'Alessandro has the consent agenda this evening. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have not heard of any holds other than 3.4. Is that still true, Council? If that's still true, I will start by moving items 3.1 to 3.3 and 3.5 to 3.11 on tonight's consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember D'Alessandro, second by Councilmember Mua to accept the consent business as stated. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item 3.4.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So, Councilmember Nelson requested a hold on this, and in a discussion that that we can have here, it brought to mind for me the idea that we might want to, in lieu of voting on this specifically, maybe table this and have a larger discussion as a group about the strategic priorities or the strategic plan funding that we might want to consider putting a delay on if as we are working through the budget today. You know, as we are trying to get to a number that we all feel more comfortable with, the open question would be, you know, are there some other items from the strategic plan that are coming up that are these kind of smaller items that if we delayed them because they're not super critical to the work we're trying to accomplish for the year, for example, would we find more of them and could we make a bigger impact to the budget reconciliation process? And so we have the options here to move this, and I'll of course give Councilmember Nelson the opportunity to speak his mind here on this one. But the other idea would be for us to table it, and then maybe later in Section 5, we can talk about the options we might have for taking a look at what other small items in the strategic plan we might want to put a delay on.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thoughts on that?
Councilmember Nelson? I know Councilmember Nelson was the one who initially wanted to hold it. Councilmember Nelson?
Yeah, and I held it essentially because I think given the budget concerns that we have with a 12% increase this year, a potential significant increase next year, just taking a look at everything, I think, Mayor, you talk about the things that we can stop doing. I also think there's a part of that is what are things we can delay doing or not move forward with doing until an appropriate time. I know it's not a huge budget issue, but I've always found in my life and my business is a lot of times I get much further along a budget path if I take focus on several small items instead of looking for like the silver dagger, the big item that fixes the whole problem, because I've never found that thing in my life. I've never found that one thing that fixes the entire thing. And so, I mean, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do this neighborhood identity. I frankly, personally, it's not that big a deal to me. I just don't see how it moves a lot of what we're trying to do forward. And when we have these budget constraints, I just think that this item and potentially other items within the plan or frankly, within all of our departments that we may be doing that aren't having a huge impact, we might want to take a look at. So that's why I wanted to raise this one and probably likely not support it, but understand where it came from, and it's in the strategic plan. So those are my thoughts.
Other thoughts? Councilmember Rivas and Councilmember Muo. Councilmember Rivas.
Kind of a controversial thing to say, but I agree with the budget part of the whole thing, but I also have a personal opinion in regards to that. Being a minority and growing part of it in California, and this back then was already a thing in California. And what he created was neighborhoods that were just called by a demographic rather than, my goal and my dream has always been that we all call ourselves Americans and that we should all be considered that rather than creating a neighborhood that is just one demographic or one race or one origin. And I think to me, it's kind of awkward for the people that live in those neighborhoods, because in many ways it prevents the population of that particular neighborhood from actually growing to the full potential that they have. Like everybody else, being a minority, I had my obstacles as a child. I'll admit that. However, because I grew up in an area that there were not very many people like me, I was able to adapt a lot quicker. And by doing so, I had advantages that a lot of the people that work from my ancestry did not have. So I see these programs as a hindrance to minorities rather than some advantage to them. If I visit areas here in the Twin Cities that are just one race, I don't see their neighborhoods as well kept and as well developed, and the homes are not as nice as in areas that populations mingle with each other. So I kind of, I don't only see the expense as something that can be saved, but also as a negative impact on minorities when we try to do this for them. I don't see it as a help. To me, it would be more beneficial to try to teach English and civics to people that come from other countries so that they can take full advantage of the opportunities available to them in many ways, because we translate everything for them and we don't give them the opportunity to actually assimilate what society has to offer them, or assimilate the culture. They live with their cultures in a more segregated actually than they would if the doors open to them to learn the language, to learn how this government system works, to take advantage of everything that is out there for them without having to expect somebody that only speaks their language to come over and offer help to them. That said, again, I agree with both fellow council members, Nelson and D'Alessandro. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sorry.
It's a long thing.
It is.
Because of the budget constraints, but in my humble opinion, it actually hurts minorities when you try to do something like this. It doesn't help them out. But again, it's just my opinion. That's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Moua.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say that I recognize what my fellow council members have said. I was on the strategic planning team as a resident before I was even on council. And so I was part of the conversation about why this was included in our strategic plan. And the intent is not to create areas where we force minorities. That is not the intent of this piece of it at all. The intent is actually to help us understand historically where Bloomington is, where it has been, and where it's coming from, so people know their history of why this neighborhood is called this, and what happened in this neighborhood, and how it has become what it is. In my wife's family, so my family, the Pauls have been in Bloomington since the 1800s. I was at the Bloomington Historical Society last year. I saw a plant map from 1853, and there they were. Grandma Paul's house is still in Lindale, right at that plot where they had 250 acres there. And to have that kind of recognition that this family has been in this spot for 200 years, whatever it is to me, speaks loudly to the history that we have. And people should recognize that and understand that, yes, we can all come from different places. We can all come from different spaces. But when you're here in Bloomington and you live in this neighborhood, this is the history we have here. And you have the ability and the capability to build upon the history that has been put forth here to build this community together. And so that's why this conversation that we had during the strategic planning meetings about why communities and neighborhood identity is important is because it gives us a deeper understanding into the city of Bloomington as a whole. The city didn't start as it is today. It was a bunch of farm fields of people with horses and plows working 365 days a year to make sure they could feed their families, and it's become a city who leads the state in many areas. And so having that history and building on that identity, I think, helps build Bloomington into being the place where people want to be. And it's why in our strategic plan, and it's why in our mission statement that we say our mission is to cultivate an enduring and remarkable community where people want to be. And that's a nod and a nod to our history of recognizing where we come from to direct us where we're going. And so I will support this. I understand that there's budget concerns, and I can get behind that, but to move this forward and make sure that it stays part of the strategic plan is where I will be at.
Thank you, Councilmember Moua. Councilmember Lohman?
Yeah, I can wait till after the manager.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, unless you wanted to come. I kind of have kind of a mixed mind on this thing. I understand, what my council members are kind of saying. Hey, we've got a budget crisis here, and we got to start getting serious about every item that we're looking at here. Under 100,000 seems a little extreme, but we really do have an extreme situation in which we need to kind of tighten our belts around that. So I'm not. I'm very interested in the other part of the proposal where we look at all of the other strategic priorities that are out there and freeze those to have a conversation about that. I do agree with my colleague over here, Councilmember Moua, because I happen to be on the on the committee, and the way I look at this is kind of add on to what you said is we look back far enough, we look at Old Shakopee Road in terms of its historic significance in terms of its trail. It's a connection from the past in terms of our Native American history, and it's a bridge or a trail into the future in terms of where we're going. And I think it is important that we look at these types of things from a strategic standpoint. I think this is appropriately listed where it's at, and I even kind of wonder in terms of what we're trying to do if this the monetary amount that's here is even the right amount. But I think in terms of getting this conversation started, I think that this is what this does. It's a very small drop in the bucket in terms of this conversation. And so I think as a council member, as we kind of look at it with both hats on, in terms of trying to be prudently responsible and fiscally responsible, I think we also need to think about that we did take on the, and try to decentralize ourselves when we, for some of those folks who weren't here, though I understand you may not have this background, but we did decentralize our strategic priority planning and give it out to the community. And this is one of the things that group has asked us to kind of do as we kind of march down this process of trying to get our strategic priorities fulfilled. And so I think we kind of have to look at this with both hats on. We've kind of said we were going to try to accomplish those goals that were there. And so that's one reason to kind of do it. And then, hey, we've got some expenditures that are out there that we're concerned about. This would not be the one I would select to delay, but certainly every council member's got a prerogative, and I respect that. And but I'll at this point I'll be supportive of this in terms of what we got happening here. But I understand your point of view, but I would be cautious. That'd be my recommendation in terms of which ones we're picking to stop and delay.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Verbrugge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Appreciate the conversation. Would like to reiterate Councilmember Mua's comment that the genesis of this idea from the core planning team and others who worked on the recommendations for BTT projects didn't have anything to do with residents' origin or ethnicity or race. That really is about how people connect with their community and how they get engaged in community. That we know that people have their closest affinity to what's most immediate to them. And a lot of people in communities find their connection through schools or find their connection through places of worship. And especially if you are not somebody who has a child in the schools or does not regularly go to a place of worship, part of the question is, where do you find community? And so having people be able to identify with that place that is most immediate to them. And most of the neighborhoods, without forecasting how the identity or the naming may play out, but where we've seen this before, it tends to be around natural features within the community. It tends to be around the parks, or it tends to be around some of the natural amenities, and that's generally how you see this happen. We have, I think, a good idea of not only how neighborhood identity helps to get people more connected to where they are, it also would help our engagement efforts as well. And so I think there really is a two-way benefit here. Recognize the concerns about the Strategic Priorities Fund. To the comments that Councilmember D'Alessandro made, we're going to be talking about Strategic Priorities Fund at our first budget conversation on September 30th. If the council wants to just take a couple weeks and pause and see what's in there and look at the list again, I would be comfortable doing that. But also feel strongly that this was a pretty significant project that the BTT team had landed on as something that was important for the welcoming and inclusive aspect of the community approach, and wanted to make sure that we give it its due consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Verbrugge. So I also, as part of that large core team, I will agree that this conversation about this was all around welcoming people and trying to have people be more comfortable in their neighborhoods or welcome in their community, in their neighborhoods. We see the strength of the neighborhoods every August at National Night Out, and some neighborhoods are stronger than others, and this was just an opportunity to try and strengthen the neighborhoods who might not be as strong with a sense of identity and cohesion and a sense of place for their residents. So, but I will tell you, Councilmember Rivas, I don't recall at all a conversation about ethnicity or race or anything as it related to that in those conversations about neighborhoods. So,
if I may, I didn't participate in any of those
Understood.
conversations.
Understood.
However, the name of the program, though, I can tell you, you can look it online probably. These type of programs created areas like Frogtown in St. Paul. It hasn't all been positive. I understand where everybody's coming from after listening to Councilmember Zhao. Yeah, I understand that point. That's great. I mean, Pioneer Trail, like Councilmember Loma mentioned, is another historical thing. But to me, the way that this is worded, it doesn't necessarily portray that intention. It actually makes people believe that it's an identity neighborhood that is being created. In other words, there are areas everywhere, including here in Minnesota and maybe in Bloomington, possibly. We have the Georgetown area, right? It has a great name. I mean, I remember my very first time thinking that it was going to be on the looks of Georgetown, D.C., in Maryland, right? That's what I was hoping. But you know what I'm trying to say, though? But I did not participate in the original discussions about it, but what it portrays is not the intention, right? And I'm not the only one that feels that way. Okay, I can tell you that with certainty. But that said, I do understand where you're coming from, Councilmember Zhao. That point is well made, and it's, to me also, it has a lot of significance. Yes, it's valuable. However, the way that is portrayed out there, the way you read it, is not what you're saying right now. The explanation that you gave me is not the way I read it, or anybody out there reads it. It just looks like if you're creating a neighborhood based on ethnicity or national origin, almost. And that's why I made the comments.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you weren't in the core team, the core planning team. But yeah, there was an in-depth. Council, we could go round and round here with this. What I'd like to do.
I have a quick question on the specifics of the $87,000, if I can ask that really quickly.
Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you look at the dashboard on the neighborhood identity model, there's a checklist there. Does this $87,000 cover that checklist? So on the checklist, it says create process and timeline for neighborhood names boundaries, form internal neighborhood engagement advisory team by November of 24, create an external Bloomington advisory team by 25, administer survey, organize community cafes, draft neighborhood maps, gain final community input, present to city council in November of 25. Is that what this $87,000 is intended to cover, or some portion of that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember D'Alessandro, yes, it is.
So with this $87,000, this project underneath our strategic priorities would be complete? Would that be a fair comment? Okay, great. All right, great. So here we have two choices. We can table it and bring and decide on this with the other strategic priorities money when we get to that part of the budget, or we could vote on it right now. Mr. Mayor, I'd leave the decision up to you. I'm going to guess we have the votes to pass it if you want to pass it.
I want to hear what Councilmember Lohman and any.
The only thing I was counting noses there. I think it's 3-3. Unless you're.
That's not. I did not necessarily say I was going to vote against it.
How about
I was
if we do this,
facilitating.
How about if we do this, Council? Let's put this off for 2 weeks. Have a part of the conversation on the 30th of September.
That's what I was going to suggest.
And take a look at it then, and maybe have more of this in-depth conversation. Perhaps staff could provide all of us with the background and the notes from the core planning team, what we're hoping to accomplish with it, all the details on it, and we can look at it along with the other pieces of the strategic plan and the different parts of it. Maybe have that conversation. And whether it's a matter of perhaps holding stuff off, pumping the brakes a little bit, or how we want to do it, just looking at the strategic plan and the spending associated with some of those programming in the context of our larger budget discussion that we're having. I think that might be the most appropriate thing, knowing, of course, that it's a 5-year strategic plan and the clock is ticking on it, and you can only delay it so long before it becomes not part of the strategic plan anymore. So
Mayor, I'd be happy to make that motion.
Does that make sense to everybody? Why don't we, if you could, Councilmember Lowe?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to. And when's that meeting? The strategic meeting? 9:30. Yep.
September 30th.
All right, September 30th. Okay, Mayor, I'll move to, well, let's see here, postpone item 3.4 till 9/30/2024.
Second.
Motion and a second to postpone item 3.4 until the council meeting on the 30th of September. And I think with the intent of having it part of the budget discussion, not necessarily just put it back on the consent agenda, but to have it part of the budget discussion. Everybody clear on that? All right. Any further discussion on this, council? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Councilmember D'Alessandro, for handling the consent agenda this evening. Move on to item 4 in our agenda. This is our hearings, resolutions, and ordinances, and we have one public hearing this evening. This is our 2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. Anna Salvador from RHRA is here. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Again, Anna Salvador, Assistant HRA Administrator. I have a brief presentation for you this evening, and it is a public hearing. No formal action is required by the City Council beyond the public hearing. Annually, we come before you with the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER. For grounding, the purpose of the CDBG program, it's an annual grant that's received by the city and administered by the HRA from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing and suitable living environment, expanding economic opportunities with a focus of programming on low and moderate income households. Bloomington is an entitlement community, meaning we receive a direct allocation annually from HUD. The presentation this evening is regarding the program year 2023, which is activities completed July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2024. During this program year, funds were directed towards administration, fair housing, senior services, and homeowner rehabilitation assistance primarily. While the city receives an annual grant through CDBG, which this last program year of 2023 was a total of $456,726. The way activities are funded is actually a little more layered and complex, and the actual spending is much higher than just the grant that was received for this program year. Because the majority of funding through CDBG is dispersed as loans by the city actually receives program income annually, and HUD requires that we spend that program income before tapping into that current year's program allocation. This last year in program year 2023, we received income of $338,446. The city is also carrying a balance from previous cycles that must be spent before, again, tapping into this year's annual allocation. Most of these funds have been committed to specific programming, and some projects just take multi-years before that total is spent down, and that's why you're seeing such a large carryover amount. Once both program income and carryover dollars are spent, that is then when we begin to tap into that annual allocation that I mentioned. This slide here shows you and demonstrates that we are actually spending most of that money annually. But the majority of CDBG dollars spent in program year 2023 went to rehabilitation loans through the city's rehab loan program. So the $963,000 number is representative of 41 loans granted within that program year. The city also acquired 2 single-family homes in program year 2023 using CDBG dollars, and these properties are incorporating into a broader homeownership programming managed by the HRA. Additionally, $150,000 was awarded to Homes Within Reach to acquire and rehab 2 homes in Bloomington to be sold to income-eligible households. The city also provides household outside maintenance services to elderly homeowners 62 years and older in Bloomington through a partnership with Senior Community Services. And lastly, the city is a member of the Fair Housing Implementation Council, which coordinates efforts to affirmatively further fair housing throughout the Twin Cities metro housing market area. So just to collaborate and coordinate on efforts regarding fair housing to broaden the impact of those dollars. HUD also requires that we collect and report out on demographic information Most programs, as I mentioned, are restricted to low and moderate income households, and that's reflected in the income levels that you're seeing on the screen. The extremely low income households that are captured here mostly are served through the Senior Community Services Program. And while we do track demographic information, there's no specific funding goals set regarding race or ethnicity targets related to these funds. And because most of the programming for CDBG dollars is targeted towards home ownership, the race and ethnicity numbers that you're seeing on the screen is reflective of current homeownership demographics in the city of Bloomington. So consistent with homeowner demographics in the city. The CAPER was posted for a 15-day public comment period, and the public is able to submit comments in person, by email, or also by mail. And the public comment period was published on the city website and in the Sun Current. This concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to the mayor and council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for pinch hitting tonight. We appreciate you stepping in. Any questions of Ms. Salvador this evening? Did we, with the public comment period open, have we heard any public comments?
We have not received any comments at this point.
Very good. Well, thank you. Don't go far in case we have questions during the public hearing this evening. This is a public hearing, and I will open it now on item 4.1, a public hearing on our 2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. Is there anyone in the council chambers who wishes to speak to item 4.1 this evening? Ms. Tolsman, do we have anyone on the phone wishing to speak?
Mr. Mayor, there's nobody online.
Last call for anybody in the council chambers? Council, no one coming forward in the chambers, no one on the phone wishing to speak to item 4.1. I would look for a motion to close the public hearing on item 4.1.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember D'Alessandro, second by Councilmember Mua to close the public hearing on item 4.1. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So no official formal action is required by the City Council beyond this public hearing. So we will thank you so very much for the presentation, and thanks for the information. Moving on to item 5 on our agenda. Item 5 is our organizational business. Item 5.1 was moved up in the agenda. We already heard that one. Item 5.2, our City Council policy and issue update. At this point, I would typically tell us about the listening session, but we did not have a listening session this evening. We actually canceled it for this evening, so we could all be part of the Hatch Bloomington celebration just outside the doors here earlier tonight. Beyond that, I do not have anything to add. Mr. Verbrugge, do you have anything to add this evening?
Mr. Mayor and council members, just a reminder that we have a groundbreaking for our Bloomington Ice Garden project tomorrow evening. So there'll be a nice community event. And it's not actually groundbreaking. It is digging into some ice shavings, but it seems a little more appropriate. So it'll be a fun event and a nice way to kick off a really important project for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Verbrugge. Others on the council, Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just have a question for the city manager. It's my understanding, does early voting start on Friday? And what does that look like for residents of Bloomington?
Mr. Mayor and council members, Councilmember Nelson, thank you for the question. Indeed, you are correct. Friday, September 20th is the first day of early voting leading up to the November general election. The voting is here at Civic Plaza. And we will be doing that for, I think it's 46 days leading up to the general election. And it'll be Monday through Friday during business hours here at Civic Plaza. Yep. Up until closer to the election, and then we have some special hours as we get closer. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Others, council? All right, no one coming forward with that, so we're going to move on to item 5.3. which is our final item this evening. This will be a closed session regarding real estate acquisitions related to the Community Health and Wellness Center site. As we discussed actually just a couple of weeks ago, I think when we had a closed session, city council meetings are generally open to the public and our broadcast, and we're very open. There are a couple of reasons we are able to close a session, and one of those reasons is for negotiation purposes for this type of thing. And excuse me. And so we will be closing the session. What we're going to be doing is I'll look for a resolution to close the public meeting. We'll go into closed session, and then we'll have a motion to reopen the public meeting. And then we'll, after the meeting is reopened, we will vote on any discussion that had occurred during the closed meeting to take action consistent with the discussion of the closed meeting. Ms. Mandershot, I'm sure I forgot something there as I was choking on the water that I just drank. Nope. All right. Very good. Then, Council, I would look for a motion to adopt the resolution directing the closure of the public meeting of the City Council. Councilmember Nelson, question.
He's already seconded me. I like it. Just Mayor, is there any additional context we can provide to residents who have seen this item published? They know what it's about. It's about some properties, nearby the community center. Is there any broader context we can provide to people just in terms of what's going to happen? And then I think the most important thing for people to know is we're not going to do anything. We're not going to take any type of action or anything without coming back, doing that publicly. And I bring that up because my first meeting as a council member ever was to do negotiations or look at property related to Highland Greens golf course. And we had a packed house that had to be cleared because it was private. And so, but I know there were a lot of concerns then. I know these things raised like, okay, what's happening? So if there's any way we can just provide a little bit of context for people of why we're having the conversation, what we're talking about, and that we won't make a private decision. We'll make public decisions, and they'll have input into them.
Well, Councilmember, I'm not going to step anything here. I'm going to turn to Mr. Verbrugge and Ms. Mandershide to tell us what we were able to say.
Yep, Mr. Mayor and council members, Councilmember Nelson, you are correct that any action that we take subsequent to the conversation does have to be voted on in the public. So that will be viewable. And to reiterate what the mayor said when highlighting why it is that we can go into closed session if we are, one of the reasons is to discuss real estate and property transactions. And sometimes that involves discussion of potential strategy and price and those types of issues, right? So those are not things that we would do in public. The reason that we're having the conversation, to your point, is these properties are adjacent to the Creekside Community Health and Wellness Center site, and there's some value to the project to be able to have additional area that may be available. And so wanting to explore that possibility and see what options are available to the city.
Very good. Anything else, any additional questions on where we are or what we're doing here tonight? Councilmember Lohman?
I'm ready to move this thing so we can get into the...
All right, Councilmember Lohman.
Okay, I'll move to adopt a resolution directing the closure of the public meeting of the City Council.
Motion by Councilmember Lohman, second by Councilmember D'Alessandro to adopt the resolution closing the public meeting of the City Council. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We will go into closed session. We will be back on the air when we reopen the City Council meeting to close this meeting. So there we go. Thank you. We are back out of closed session. We are now reopened as the City Council. And Council, I will make the motion to authorize and direct city officials and staff to take the action consistent with the discussion of the closed session this evening.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize and direct city officials and staff to take action consistent with the discussion in the closed session. No further council discussion on this? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries 5-1 with Councilmember D'Alessandro in opposition. And with that, council, we complete our agenda this evening, and I will look for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Motion by Councilmember D'Alessandro, second by Councilmember Mua to adjourn this evening. No further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thanks so much for the conversation this evening, council. Staff, thank you all very much. A lot of good work tonight. Thank you, and thanks to everybody in the public who participated. It was a great start to the meeting, and I hope you enjoyed watching us as well. Thanks much. Have a great rest of your week.